afternoon to you. Welcome along to Saints Live, coming to you live from the St Mary's Stadium, because today Southampton are heading up to Manchester to the Etihad Stadium to take on Manchester City at 3 p.m. Fingers crossed that Southampton get that first win of the Premier League season later on today. So welcome along. Thank you very much for joining us. We will be bringing you the team news, the team sheet in around 15 minutes time. So don't go anywhere. Now, some of you who are regulars might be thinking, hang on a minute, where's the dynamic duo? Where is Kenzie Benali and Steve Forbes? Well, in football terms, they're technically on international duty, and the Southampton born and bred academy graduate gets his first team start today. So fingers crossed that it goes well. You'll be able to tell whether it is going well very shortly. Now, I will not be left all by myself. I will be joined by some fantastic guests. I have Dean Hammond. I also have Adrian Kajumba joining me. Adrian, a football reporter for the Daily Mail, and Dean Hammond, an ex-Southampton player, over 100 appearances for the mighty Red and Whites. Dean, Adrian, great to have you on board. Dean, are you well? Are you happy? Are you excited about today?
I'm very excited, Tom. Good to see you, mate, and looking forward to the show as always. Been a good week. I'm looking forward to a game today. Should be an interesting fixture. Doesn't come any tougher than Man City away. So, yeah, excited, but yeah, intrigued.
And also probably excited because when I've been watching Saints Live, I'm a massive fan, as I'm sure everybody watching today. If you want to get involved, you can tweet at Southampton FC. We're also on YouTube and Facebook Live, so leave a comment there or use the hashtag SaintsFC. When I've been watching, Dean, it tends to be Kenzie that interrupts you mid-answer to get to the team sheet. So 100% that will not be happening today. Does that make you feel a little bit more relaxed?
It does, it's just I think it's Kenz's polite way of telling me to just keep my answers a bit shorter or stop talking. So yeah, she's very diplomatic with it.
Oh, well, listen, it's a debut for me. It's also kind of a half debut for the man to the side of you, Adrian Kajumba. Great to have you back. You appeared in a cup game on Saints Live, but now Premier League debut. Excitement or a little bit of nerves?
A bit of both. It's a big day for me. I just hope it can pass off well and hopefully do well enough to come back again, get a recall.
Okay, good. Well, keep your manager's notes on board and don't go against that. That's all you have to do, Adrian. Well, listen, I can give everybody some team news. Stuart Armstrong, Theo Walcott are out of contention today with injuries. However, Will Smallbone and Shane Long are back in training, so could make that starting 11 today. So let's get to it. Let's get amongst it. Dean, I'm going to ask you the first difficult question today. I've got many more stacked up here. And that question, Dean, is are there going to be any changes that Ralph makes after such a good performance and a very good defensive performance against West Ham?
Yeah, it's a good question, Tom. I think following on from the defensive display last week, the discipline the team showed, I think it'd be very difficult to change the team. The one thing the manager has got now is options. There's some depth in the squad, whether that's individually with the players or whether that's tactically, the formation. We've seen he's obviously like to play the similar formation last season, but this season has introduced, the kind of the 4-1-4-1 sort of formation. So there's options for him, but it's going to be a tough fixture away at Man City today, and the team's going to have to be very disciplined. They're going to have to be together. They're going to have to be patient as well with the ball and without the ball, especially defensively. So there could be some changes. Like I say, he has options. I think Brower came into the team last week. Made a huge impact coming off the bench. That's an option. You've got Shay Adams, obviously, that's looking for some more minutes and trying to, rekindle that form. Cole Walker-Peters can come in either at left back or maybe at right back and push Livramento forward. But I think the spine and the core of the team will always remain the same because that's the strength of Southampton. So it'll be interesting to see.
Okay, yeah, interesting to see. Ralph spoke about it in the press conference. You need to have the perfect game to get any result out of a team like Manchester City. So, Adrian, I'm expecting, as many people are, there to be a bit of a defensive change-up because we know how good Man City are. If you don't know how good they are, you must have been living under a rock. Adrian, I know you haven't been living under a rock. So what does Ralph do? Does he maybe keep that potential 5 at the back again?
You could see the kind of logic behind that argument, that theory, if he was to do that. He was no stranger to sort of playing a back 3 or back 5 in his first sort of 6-7 months before he then settled on the back 4 predominantly. and I can understand the thinking behind it. City, playing against City, the amount of attacking players they've got, the amount of chances they create. If you get some sort of extra bodies back in that defensive area, you would think you'd obviously improve your chances of shoring up your defense and protecting your goal. I've just got my one concern about sort of the sort of back three, back five area is or setup is it just too often becomes a back five when you play three centre backs. And what that will do is that will invite City even more onto you. They don't need any further invitation to attack. It's just a bit more of a, I want to say, well, yeah, negative. It's a bit more of a negative setup, and it invites the opposition onto you towards your own goal. And I think when you're playing at City, you're not going to have too many options to attack, but you do need to have that ability to get out and away from your own goal, almost keep the ball away from your goal. It's a very hard balance to strike, but that would just be my one concern about maybe playing with three centre backs or a back five.
You definitely can't have 10 defenders and the goalkeeper, Dean. But last time they went out and played at Manchester City, Southampton lost 5-2. They played 5 at the back, but there were moments of brilliance. They played really, really well. What was your take from that game?
I think it was an excellent performance. The scoreline, obviously, Man City probably deserved to win. But if you look at the game, for the first 20 minutes, Southampton were pretty dominant with and without the ball. I think they surprised Man City with the change of shape and the personnel within the shape as well. They're really aggressive with their press. I remember them winning the ball high up the pitch on many, many occasions and were okay at 1-1, really were, away at the Etihad at Man City at 1-1. They looked pretty comfortable. And then there was kind of from the 40th minute mark to probably the 60th minute, Man City really took control. I think the Riyad Mahrez goal just before half-time was seeing. Gundogan then gets another goal, and then Mahrez just after half-time just kind of kills the game, really. But there was some real positive. I was looking at the stats. I think Southampton had 11 shots on goal, which is pretty impressive. Had 42% possession, which again is impressive away at Man City. So there were some real positives in that performance. Took the game to Man City and scored 2 goals, but obviously, like Adrian's just mentioned, the threat that Man City have with the quality players have, it's always going to be tough. But it was a good performance, and I think the surprise in the formation kind of undid Man City for a period of time and caused them a little bit of concern.
Yeah, and that's what Southampton need to do, is cause concerns, ask questions of that Man City team. I tell you what, if the attendance is like that again, Pep will be furious, as we've heard this week from him. But Dean, you talked about the shots there that they had. A question for you, Adrian, is KWP, Kyle Walker-Peters, has not really featured that much this season because Tino Livramento has been fantastic, poised, the confidence he's had. Could you possibly see a swap between those two players because of what KWP brings in experience, or maybe both players could play in the same team?
I think the idea of both players playing in the same team is probably more what I'd be leaning to if there is a change and Kyle Walker-Peters comes back in today. He's been very unlucky, Kyle Walker-Peters, to maybe lose his place. I thought last season he impressed me a lot. Maybe one solution today is to maybe play him at left back, like Ralph did at Newcastle. And the advantages of that, obviously, his ability, obviously his talent is there for everyone to see. I think everyone knows about that. I think another benefit of that could be if he finds himself up against a left-footed right winger. He's got Mahrez cutting in from that side, or maybe if Pep Guardiola decides to play Foden out there, you've got sort of Kyle Walker-Peters maybe doing a lot of defending naturally on his favoured side. So maybe that could be an option. I mean, going back to Livramento, he's been a sort of revelation. He must be sort of loving life at the moment. He's kind of made what some people may call a brave move to leave a big club like Chelsea, but it's sort of paid off straight away. He's getting experience in the Premier League, which would have been, he would have had to wait a very long time to get if he'd stayed at Chelsea. And he's sort of playing with no fear. He's showing his abilities. He's really making a big impression. And I don't see how he can't play at the moment. I think he's got that in a game like today. That sort of youthful exuberance that he's got is maybe what Southampton may need. Almost, it's a big game, it's a daunting challenge, but from what you've seen from Livramento, he's not the sort of player you think would be phased by that. And one other thing I think he's got as well, which I think is a reason why he has to be in the team, is his ability to get up the pitch and carry the ball from his position at right back. I was talking earlier on about playing with a back five and that setup, for example, maybe inviting more pressure onto the team that's going to be under pressure naturally because you're away at the Etihad, and you need to be able to relieve that pressure at times during a game. And for example, just one moment, I think everyone will remember Livramento's run against Manchester United, where he sort of carried the ball from right back, left Fred on the floor. Just that ability to get the team up the pitch and relieve some pressure, I think, can be very, very valuable, and why I think I'd expect Livramento to be in the team.
Oh, brilliant answer there, Adrian. I love that. Tino is pretty undroppable. I want to read a couple of the fans' comments. Thank you very much for getting involved. Don't forget you can still do that at Southampton FC, also using the hashtag SaintsFC. To follow on from what you both said, Phil on Twitter says, concerned that KWP is not in the team at the moment. Livramento looks so good though, so it's tough. For me though, play both down the right. Well, we are about 4 minutes away from finding out if Ralph is going to take on board your comments, Phil. Matt Hookway says, first Saturday this season, I'll have chance to watch the Saints, expecting great things. And then Jim, this is a good omen. Jim Blackwood said, last time I watched Hampshire, who are playing today, we won and Saints won 8-0. So not saying lump on Saints, but getting a good feeling now. So very positive there. And also Jack says, James Ward-Prowse free kick is what I want today. Hashtag top bins. I'll read out some more of your fan comments very shortly, but I know that team sheet is moments away. I will say this though, Amanda Broha made a massive impression coming off the bench against West Ham. An agonising shot can back off the post after a brilliant run from him. The question is he going to start today? This is what Ralph had to say about him in this week's press conference.
Amanda Broja came off the bench against West Ham, did really well. He's come off the bench now a couple of times. He's only 20. Is he ready for a start in the Premier League, do you think?
A few players are ready for a start, I think, now. And the good thing for me is that I have the choice. This is what I didn't have last season. Last season, when you have been fit, you have played. So now we have a lot of qualities, what we can need or can try. It's not so much about who deserves to play. It's more about what you need to play and what quality you need. And this is what I told the players today also, that it sometimes maybe looks a little bit unfair in the future when you're not playing because you did a good job in the last game. But when you need something different against this opponent, then we have now the opportunities to change, and this is what we need.
Great to hear Ralph's comments there about Armando, and also the choices that you have is a position we haven't been in for a little while, us Saints. So Dean, I've got my lucky red pen today. I've even worn my lucky badge today. Is Armando a player that could come into that starting lineup and make a bit of difference? What do you like about him as a player?
Well, he's definitely a player that could come into the starting lineup. I think just from that, the evidence of his performance last week against West Ham and the impact he made coming off the bench was fantastic. I think the first moment you'll see in a moment where he uses that pace and that power, which I didn't realise he had. That was very, very impressive, very direct, aggressive with the ball in his run, and he's excellent. And he's a presence. He's a good size. Physically, he looks very, very good. The second opportunity here where he's one-on-one again, there's nothing in his mind. It's very instinctive to think, where can I get an opportunity to get a strike a goal? It's a lovely, clean strike as well. And if you see, he just has a quick look up to see where the goalkeeper is. No hesitation, good strike, and unfortunate. And I like the fact that, with this header as well, he really, he out-jumps Dawson. Antonio's trying to protect him in front. He gets a good, clean header of the ball. So he's got so many attributes to be able to play that forward line. And I think he could play it on his own as well, which helps when you're trying to change the formation. You'll be able to hold up the ball. You'll be able to run in behind. So a very impressive player. And I think he definitely could come into the team. Whether it's too early for him, he's 20 years old. He's still finding his way into the club. But yeah, he's a great option for the manager. And if the manager wants to change at any point during the game, he's another fantastic option coming off that bench to try and change the game, whether that's getting a goal or, holding the ball up when you're protecting a lead.
We will find out in less than 30 seconds if that is going to happen, or the Impact sub. Just a shout out to Steve K, watching from Airdrie in Alberta, all the way in Canada. I know that because he's put the Canadian flag emoji on, so that's very useful for me when my geography is not great. And also, come on Saints, surprise of the season so far, let's make it happen. That is from Peter, but I can now get that team sheet in, and it is very exciting, the changes that have been made potentially. as I can now reveal the starting 11 for today against Man City. We have McCarthy in goal. We have Livramento, Bednarak, Jack Stevens, Walker Peters makes a start today. Romeo in midfield, James Ward-Prowse, Elianusi, Redmond, Armstrong, and Adams up front. So that is, there have been changes, Dean. What do we make of those changes and that starting lineup today?
Well, very positive from the manager. Very, very positive. It looks like it's a change of shape. It's back to the kind of 4-4-2 with the wingers playing narrow, very attack-minded. I think we touched on it before the show. We had a little quick discussion that, you know, you expect Man City to score, and whether the manager has looked at it and thought, okay, well, Man City are going to have opportunities, they're going to score goals. Why, instead of just sitting and waiting, let's be proactive. Let's take the game to them. Let's press them. Let's cause them some problems. Let's really ask some questions of Man City and see whether we can score some goals. You saw in the Champions League, they won 6-3, but they conceded 3 goals as well, and very similar goals. If you look at the goals, they're from crosses, they're headers. So there is a weakness there. There is a lightweight in terms of physicality in Man City's back line. So maybe the managers looked at it and thought, I'm going to be brave today. I'm going to take the game to them. And I like it. You know, it will be an entertaining game. And look, you live and die by your decisions. And the managers looked at it and think, okay, well, I think we can cause them problems. Yes, they're going to cause us problems, but let's see and let's take the game to them. So yeah, very, very brave.
I can see your smile on your face, Dean. You're loving this. It's not a defensive lineup at all. We're enjoying this. Adrian, what's your take on that lineup?
Yeah, you talk about it not being a defensive lineup, and I wonder sometimes when teams go into games and they set up defensively or in a negative way from the off, what then happens when you concede? You're already a goal down, and then you have to open up. So it's only going to get worse, you'd imagine. So it's nice that he's gone for it. We talked about Kyle Walker-Peters, and you imagine he's going to be the one in at left back. Bednarak coming back in. Just looking at, you know, Armstrong and Shea Adams at top, so that's Nathan Redmond dropping back, and you know, they look like they got players there that can cause City problems. Dean just spoke about the goals Man City conceded against Leipzig in midweek. So you know, you have to try and go and attack the City team and see if there are sort of areas and weaknesses that you can exploit in their side.
Yeah, a little message here from David Edwards has come through. I'd start Brower for me. We haven't had that aerial threat since Pella. Could give their centre-back some issues. That's what you mentioned, Dean. With someone like Shea Adams up front, that's kind of very exciting. I mean, and in terms of the attacking players, you've got Elianusi, Redmond, Armstrong, Adams. That's going to give Man City some problems today.
Well, it will, because Man City are going to dominate possession. They really are, and they commit bodies forward. They want to play with that progressive nature, the combinations. They get a lot of numbers forward, which obviously leaves them open for that counter-attack and will leave spaces. So Southampton have got players in the team that are good in one-on-one situations, you know, one-on-one duels. You look at Redmond, that's where you want him, you know, taking his full-back on, taking the defenders on. Shea Adams with that willingness to run in behind. We've seen Armstrong, how quick he is, you know, and he's a willing runner as well. He's a good finisher. Elianusi is creative, a little bit more clever in possession. So with the attacking players on the pitch, there's going to be opportunities today. There really, really is. And we mentioned I mentioned the goals that they conceded in the Champions League. They were from crosses and the wide players coming in narrow to win the first contact and then getting the contact and balls being slid through, not from a long distance. So you need possession in Man City's half. I believe Southampton will be given opportunities to create chances. Man City don't give you chances, but they give you the opportunity to maybe build up the play because of the counter-attack and they allow their defenders to defend one-on-one. So it will be interesting, but it will come down to how the fact Southampton need to defend well as well. We're talking about the attacking players, but they're going to have to defend very, very well today as well.
Yeah, Adrian, they're going to have to be very disciplined. And Ralph said about Pep and the opposition today. It seems that Pep has always got an answer tactically when the opposition come to the Etihad. So is there any way that Saints can exploit them today? Obviously, they need to be disciplined and take their opportunities. Is there anything else? Or maybe you can see a weakness in Man City?
Dean's touched on it a little bit in terms of the goals that Manchester City conceded in midweek. I was rewatching those highlights earlier on today, and I think one thing you notice is the number of bodies Leipzig got in the box. And that's a very key thing. When I was looking back at the chances Saints created last week against West Ham, they weren't maybe clear-cut chances, and there wasn't really much support at times for the player who ended up having the final shot. So I think if there's one thing that maybe Saints can learn from yes, Man City won 6-3, scored 6 times, but they also conceded. So there's a little bit of hope there for sides who may be coming up against them, that if you do go at them, if you do get bodies forward and try and support your strikers, there are opportunities there for you. They're missing John Stones and Aymeric Laporte, so it's going to be yes, Diaz is there. Ruben Diaz was best player in the Premier League last year, but when he's missing maybe one of those other two centre backs, maybe City aren't quite as secure defensively, so there'll be that. The Saints could maybe look to take advantage of. And I think as well, there's just been a weird, kind of strange build-up to this game, I think, for Man City as well, with what Pep Guardiola was saying about the fans and, the attendance today. And it just seems to maybe be a little bit distracted. Sometimes, one thing that Pep Guardiola is accused of is overthinking things sometimes. And he seems to have just invited and just almost created this situation out of nothing for no reason. So must maybe invited a bit of pressure on himself. So again, you wonder if that might be a little something that can maybe work to Saints' favour today.
Yeah, and even in the interview afterwards, Adrian, he even complimented Southampton before he'd even played us. And Ralph at the press conference said that never normally happens. It's normally after the game he compliments the side he's just beaten. So maybe a couple of mind games going on there. Now, Dean, back to you, because looking at the goalkeeper and defence that we have on show today, apart from not concede, what do they need to do? Because Man City have scored 17 goals in the last 4 games. And I'm looking at that lineup, and Salisu is out of the lineup. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that's an interesting decision, because last week I thought Salisu had his best performance for the club. He looked very, very solid. I think with him playing consistently has helped his development as well. But Bednarek come back in is an experienced defender, probably more of a defender as well, enjoys that side a little bit more. So the manager will have his own opinion on that. But it's going to take huge concentration, concentration for the players, in and out of possession, communication within the group as well, because Man City, the way they play, how fluent they are, and the players' movement, you're going to have to pass players on, you're going to have to talk to each other in terms of covering positions. So it's going to take a lot of that. A clean sheet would be probably the most impressive thing, I think, today, even more than winning. If you keep a clean sheet against Man City, you've done a fantastic job. So, look, McCarthy's going to have to make some saves at some point. There's going to have to be some blocks. But I think it's the transition that will be important, that when Southampton do get them opportunities to attack and they do create chances, that if Southampton don't score and Man City win the ball back, that's when Southampton could be vulnerable, because they attack at such pace and get numbers forward. So concentration and a lot of fitness as well. They're going to have to go for every minute of this game to get something out of it.
Yeah, no talking, as Ralph always says, no talking or shouting, just, because then you're wasting breath and you need to keep running. That's something he definitely says. I want to actually just stay with you for a second, Dean, because I mentioned it earlier at the start of Saints Live today that Will Smallbone is back in the squad. It's fantastic to see him back after such an awful knee injury back in January against Leicester. What does it mean for Southampton to have someone like Will back in the squad? Maybe not for today, as he's not on the subs bench either, but what does it mean for Saints long term?
Well, brilliant. It's another a player coming through the academy, which was fantastic. 20 years of age and suffered a really serious injury early on in his career. So the club need to be very careful with him, very intelligent with him in terms of his training and his game time, and just kind of bed him back in gently and introduce him back into the group and into the team. But he's a talented player, he really is. I think his natural position will be central midfield. When he's kind of played wider to give a bit more balance, but he's got a goal threat. I think he's got all the attributes to play in that midfield position. And the more he's around the first team, the more he's training with the quality players in the first team, the more he will improve. I think a good example for him is James Ward-Prowse. James Ward-Prowse is similar, came through the year system, gradually got into the first team, then came out of the first team, then got back in, and look at him now. He's an international, he's captain of the football club. So he's a good example of what Will Smallbone could be. And I think it's brilliant that the fans always love a young boy coming through the football club. So it's good news.
You mentioned JWP. He could make it 3 goals away against Man City today. What I wanted to do, add a little bit of positivity, because it is Man City. I didn't want this show to be all doom and gloom. And so I've spoken about Will Smallbone. Fantastic. A little bit of light there. And also, can I mention, Adrian, last season, we managed to beat Manchester City at St Mary's, where I'm sat right now, 1-0. A stunner was scored by Che Adams. What do you remember from that game, and what did you make of the goal?
I mean, the main memory is obviously the goal you just mentioned. What a goal it was. And then on top of that, after they scored, I think it was particularly in the second half, some of the defending, it was real sort of backs to the wall, defiant defending from Saints to hold on to that lead. But what really struck me about the goal and the opportunity, it's not even really an opportunity now, watching it back again. But that was, obviously everyone knows Che Adams had not scored for, I think it was 29 games he'd gone without a goal before he'd scored that goal for Saints. And just watching Che in the kind of the weeks as the kind of goal drought, if you like, went on. And this is a classic example of it. It was at times you watched him and you wouldn't have thought he was a player who was struggling for goals. And then when you see the actual goal that ends up breaking his duck, that's not the sort of opportunity or attempt you would expect somebody low on confidence to try and take. So for him to still have that kind of belief in himself and that confidence to try his luck there from that opportunity, and then for it to come off, it was a great way for him to break his duck. And I remember speaking to Ralph after the game, actually, because there was another similar opportunity later on in the game where I think one of the teams had won a free kick and the ball was sort of rolled to a Southampton player, and they kind of attempted to try and lob Ederson again. It came to nothing, obviously, because the referee had already blown his whistle. But I remember Ralph Hasenhuttl was saying that they'd actually watched Ederson in the build-up to those games and seen how far off he comes off his line. And, it was almost like a tactical plan to try and catch him out. And it was great that it came off for Che Adams' goal and for the winner, and for him in particular, because he'd been working so hard and he'd been keeping his head up. So much of his game was right. It was just that goal that he was waiting for, and it was great the way it came.
I loved watching it back just then. It got those sort of feels right down my spine again. Fantastic goal. And obviously a whole week to prepare for this match, which made Ralph look fairly happy about having that time to prepare for City. How do you assess Che Adams at the moment, Dean? I mean, he's back in the lineup. That goal drought that Adrian mentioned has kind of happened this season because, unfortunately, Fred claimed that goal. I don't know if he himself claimed it, but he took the own goal. And that means that Che Adams still hasn't got off the mark yet. What do you make of him? What does he have to do to break that duck this season? And I guess out of his overall game, what you like about Che?
Well, I think officially it's not Che's goal. He's not been given it, but I think personally he will believe that that's his goal. So that will help his confidence. We've seen from Che before. When he does score, he goes on a run of games where he'll score consistently. We spoke about him before. I really like Che. I played with Che at Sheffield United. I know what he's like as a person, as a player. He is a very, very good player. And I think with Che, it's unfortunate. He does a lot of good things, brilliant things that go unnoticed. That he's such a team player and he's young and he's improving all the time. There is that expectation because of what we're seeing on the screen now, of what he can do, the goals he can score. He can score all different types of goals that you kind of expect it all the time from Che. And when it doesn't happen, there's a little bit of frustration from him. But I think he's a brilliant partner to play with. And I think he'll make Adam Armstrong a better player. I think Adam Armstrong will score a lot of goals because of his assists. You saw the way at Everton, a lovely through ball to Adam Armstrong, who's was a fantastic finish. So Che's a good player, and I think he wants that consistent run in the team. And when he does score, he'll probably score 2, 3, 4 games in a row. And if he can get into double figures again this season, I think that's impressive. But I like Che. I think he does a lot of the stuff. If you look at him, he gets kicked all the time. He gets hit. He wins loads of free kicks. And he just does a lot of the stuff that, as a player, I see and I appreciate. And maybe it just goes a little bit unnoticed.
When you mentioned Sheffield United, Dean, that goal flew up there. He scored a stunner against them as well. Well, listen, we're hoping he maybe gets on that score sheet today. I want to get your final thoughts then. Man City away, Etihad. Adrian, your final thoughts on this match, and maybe let's push you for a score prediction today.
Oof. I mean, look, it goes without saying almost you're going to Man City away, they're scoring goals for fun at home. It's going to be difficult for anyone to go there and try and get a result. I like the way Ralph has approached it. I feel Saints will carry a threat today, which is good. Score prediction. I mentioned that the goals that City have been scoring. I don't think there'll be anything like that today. Hopefully not famous last words. So maybe I'll go 2-1 City. Maybe I feel Saints will give them a game today, and I hope I'm not obviously wrong with my score prediction as well.
Yeah, obviously you might not get invited back. I'm in the same boat as well, Adrian. We've got to be on our toes today. What are your thoughts, final thoughts then, Dean, and your score prediction for today?
Similar to Adrian, really. I think Southampton, from the team the managers put out, will carry a threat. They really will, and they could try and take the game as much as you can to Man City. So I think there'll be goals. I think there's going to be some tough moments for Southampton. They're going to have to defend very, very well. And if they can get them opportunities, they need to be clinical. But I'm going to go for an optimistic 2-2 today. I think it'll be an entertaining game. Man City will score, but I think so will Southampton. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Oh, I'd love that. JWP, a penalty like he did against Newcastle right at the end to level things out. Well, guys, it's so great to chat to you ahead of the 3 p.m. kickoff today. I just want to read a couple of messages from people today. We've got a birthday. Ryan Ackland, it's my birthday today. I'm hoping for a win. Me too, Ryan. Thank you very much for your message. Mohammed says, come on, Saints. Love from Malaysia. Angela Oshie says, come on you Reds, from the Etihad. So that is a Saints fan who's travelled up all the way. For anybody who's travelled up, who's maybe watching right now, all the best. I want to hear you in full voice and in number today. And Michael Bella says, Musa and Broa bring speed late against tired legs. So he's enjoying this lineup today. And finally, Douglas Kennedy, come on you Reds, let's get a big victory. Cheers from Colorado, all the way in the States. For everybody who's been watching Saints Live today, thank you very much. I'm excited. I'm sure you are. Keep your fingers crossed because after the final whistle, we'll be back here live. So make sure you come and join us. In the meantime, stay well. We'll see you soon.